And we are back with the fifth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fifth segment, we are going to be talking about some of the teams that are actually, all of the teams that have gotten swept in the NBA Finals, because that seems to be what the story of these finals is going to be. The Celtics, they're up 3-0 in the series. They haven't lost a single away game, and the next game in Dallas is going to happen tomorrow. So it does seem like it is going to be a sweep, but we'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the teams that have have gotten swept in the NBA Finals. So the most recent team that has gotten swept is, unfortunately, the 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James, the greatest basketball player ever. He lost to the 2018 Golden State Warriors. They had a ridiculous squad: Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Obviously, these guys, they were just unbeatable. They were the most feared team in most recent NBA history, and arguably the best offense in NBA history. I mean, they added a player who was widely regarded as as the second best small forward in the NBA on the Golden State Warriors, after the Golden State Warriors ended up having, a unanimous MVP in Steph Curry and a Finals MVP in Andre Iguodala coming off of the bench, as well as Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, who are all NBA players as well as all-stars and a defensive player of the year. And Klay Thompson, before he was, known for missing or going 0 for 10 in an elimination game, he was a very feared sharpshooter and one of the best shooters that the NBA has ever seen. And unfortunately, LeBron was on the other end of the stick. He ended up scoring 52 points in the first game of the NBA Finals. It was a fantastic performance, but it was all for nothing because George Hill ended up missing the game-winning free throw. A lot of people really, they put the blame on J.R. Smith for running out the clock, but I mean, Hill missed the free throw, which would have put them up by 1 point. So that probably would have helped them win the series and they wouldn't have gotten swept, but it doesn't really matter whether you get swept or whether you don't get swept. If you lose the series, you still lose the series. So that's the most recent time that a team has gotten swept in the finals. And this happened, again, like I said, in 2018. Now, the next team that has gotten swept in the finals is, unfortunately, the 2007 finals, which was with the Cleveland Cavaliers, again with LeBron James, against the 2007 Spurs. Now, similar to LeBron against the Golden State Warriors on this slide right here, with Steph Curry and things of that nature, LeBron had to go up against the elite San Antonio Spurs team that had Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Robert Horry, all of these other NBA players that are just NBA greats. And not only that, this was LeBron's first ever finals appearance. Now, this was basically a Hall of Fame team that ended up making the playoffs every single year that Tim Duncan was on the roster and had a winning record in every single year. Now, this Spurs team, they were just elite in every single level. And with LeBron being the only really reliable option for the Cavs in his first ever finals appearance, he was basically overwhelmed. So he got swept. And this is obviously one of since this is his first finals appearance, his numbers weren't really all that great, but this wasn't his worst finals appearance. As you all know, that worst finals appearance was in 2011. But LeBron is on this list twice, and obviously being on this list twice isn't really a good thing, but you also have to remember he is on this list twice because in this scenario and in this scenario, he was the only real offensive talent on the team. And Eric Rodriguez is in the chat saying, "Let's go," because he loves the Spurs, and he loves hold on, he also said something else in the chat. The 2018 sweep was personal. The year prior, the Cavs lost to the Warriors but won one game. Draymond Green said he should have swept there. Yeah, that is true, but at the same time, like their team, this this Cavs team was a very different team than the 2017 team that was that LeBron had in the previous year. It was a completely different team. So it's not really the same thing, because it's like this team was, in my opinion, significantly worse, but LeBron was just significantly better. And again, with this team, LeBron was, he was mediocre, but the team was just, it was just better. Now, the next team on this list and the next final series on this list is 2002 between the Lakers and the Nets. Now, not the Brooklyn Nets, but the New Jersey Nets. So this was unfortunately a sweep from the Lakers. Kobe Bryant and Shaq, this was their final championship together, and the three-peat that completed, their dynasty. And Kobe and Shaq, they destroyed the Nets. Basically, Shaq just, like, no one could guard Shaq on the Jersey Nets. And it was a pretty done series. The Lakers were the favorites going into the series, like, from the jump. And Kobe, like, no one could guard Kobe, no one could guard Shaq. It was a blowout in everyone knew that the Lakers were going to win. And I mean, Jason Kidd, all the other players there, they tried their best, but it was all for nothing. And that series was basically decided. And it wasn't nearly as, most of the Lakers runs, they've been, like, they were really dominant. I mean, aside from their first finals appearance where it was, like, really shaky, the next year in 2001, they only lost one game in the postseason, and that was in the finals. And it's like they swept the entire rest of the league. And the only other time that was done was when the Golden State Warriors played in 2017. So the Lakers, essentially, they did it first. So now Eric is still in the chat. Would Kobe have more rings than Jordan if they would have stayed together? They probably could. They most definitely could have. I mean, if they stayed together and they didn't, like, if Kobe didn't really have problems with not winning the Finals MVP and just letting Shaq do his thing, there would be a pretty good chance that they would win a little bit more championships. And I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up winning more than Michael Jordan. And maybe Kobe wouldn't get as many Finals MVPs, but he would outnumber in championships. So, I mean, I don't know if you'd rather have some Finals MVPs or you would rather have more championships. Let me know what you guys think of that in the comments. But the next finals on this list is the 1995 Houston Rockets going up against the Orlando Magic. This was one of the more infamous finals runs because the Houston Rockets, they were the 6th seed in these playoffs, I believe, and they had to go. This was considered to be one of the most difficult roads to a championship in NBA playoff history. They had to go up against some Hall of Fame talent. They had to go up against the Jazz. They had to go up against the Suns. They had to go up against the Spurs. And then they had to go up against the Orlando Magic. And they ended up sweeping the Orlando Magic because, Hakeem, he ended up outplaying Shaquille O'Neal. This was a series where Shaq, seemed to Shaq was on the verge of being a okay, being getting his first championship, and the Magic were on the verge of getting their first ever championship in the franchise history, but they ended up getting swept by the Houston Rockets, which, it's like, I mean, Hakeem was basically on a mission, and this was a back-to-back win, like a back-to-back championship win for the Houston Rockets, and Hakeem Olajuwon ended up getting the Finals MVP for this series. Oh, I forgot to mention Finals MVPs for the previous series. So in the Warriors series, Kevin Durant got the Finals MVP, and in 2002, Shaq got the Finals MVP, and in 2007, I believe it was Tony Parker that ended up winning the Finals MVP of the series between the Cavs. Yeah, it was Tony Parker who ended up winning the Finals MVP. But that was a those were the Finals MVPs for the series. And now we go on to the 1989 final series, which was between the Detroit Pistons and the Lakers with Magic Johnson. Now, this was when Magic Johnson made his return to the NBA, and he made his return to the finals. He was really good, obviously. Like, he was Magic Johnson. How could he not be a good player despite all the things that he does off the court and all the things that he did off the court? But aside from that, he ended up playing the Detroit Pistons in the NBA Finals, and this was the notorious bad boy Pistons. They are very aggressive. They're known for their aggressiveness on defense, and they're known for their aggressiveness and how they just, they back in my day and back in the olden days, they used to throw punches, and they used to, all this talk about how, the 80s were a lot tougher. This was the team that sort of accentuates that belief in the, the physical aspect of the game. And Joe Dumars was the Finals MVP of this series, and the Pistons in this in the playoff run and just in the playoffs in general, they were dominant. Like, they swept every single team in the postseason, and the only time that they lost in the postseason was against Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. So obviously, Michael Jordan being one of the great players that he is, it makes complete sense that he is that he was able to beat the Detroit Pistons. But the Pistons, they ended up getting the better of him in the in this time around. So, and then they ended up sweeping the Lakers. And next on the list, because we are running a little bit out of time, is the Lakers again getting swept by this time by the 76ers in 1983, and the MVP of the Finals MVP of this series is Moses Malone, and he was also paired up with Julius Erving in the series, and he was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the series was also paired up with Magic Johnson, and unfortunately they ended up losing the series in a sweep. And despite being considered to be heavy favorites. Now, obviously, since they're the Lakers, they're most likely going to be the favorites almost every single time. And having Kareem, it makes sense that you are going to be the favorite. But Moses Malone, being one of the more underrated players in NBA history, he ended up sweeping Kareem in this series along with the help of Julius Erving. And now, in the next playoff series the next final series, that ended in a sweep was 1975. We're going way back in time, way back when Rick Barry was an NBA player, and it was between the Golden State Warriors and the Washington Bullets, and the Warriors, they ended up winning in the sweep. And the Finals MVP was Rick Barry. He ended up winning the Finals MVP, and he ended up scoring 36 points in Game 2 when the Warriors ended up winning. They obviously won every single game, and it was no competition from the Washington Bullets. And unfortunately, the Washington Bullets are still not done on this list. They are another team that they also ended up getting swept in 1971 before the 1975 NBA Finals. This time they lost to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the Milwaukee Bucks. This was the one championship that Kareem won with the Milwaukee Bucks, and they also had Oscar Robertson on the squad. This was just a fantastic team, and they were just too good. They were just way too good in this game. Wes Unseld also unfortunately, actually, Wes Unseld, he was Kareem, he ended up out playing Wes Unseld, and he ended up Wes Unseld, he played pretty well in this final series, but Kareem, he just outplayed him, and he ended up earning the Finals MVP. He averaged 27 points and he averaged 18 rebounds, and he was just insane in this postseason. And then the final team on this list, and the first ever team to sweep a team in the finals, was the Boston Celtics going up against the Minneapolis Lakers. Now, this was when Bill Russell was playing on the Celtics. Now, this was so long ago that the Finals MVP wasn't even created, so there's no Finals MVP award to give out, and it's I feel the best player on the Celtics team was just so dominant. You could really flip a coin on almost all of these players, and Bob Cousy, Bill Russell, you could flip a coin on those players, and either one of them could win the Finals MVP, and it's either one of them could be labeled as the best player on that team, or either one of them could be labeled as the best player in that entire series. But, that's basically all the time that we have, and, it was a little bit of a longer segment than usual, but, that's basically what you get when you talk about all the teams that got swept. So thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. That is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.